extraordinary music.
What's going on, Masterclass family? This is your boy, Mr. Adams, bringing you the Masterclass Trade of the day. There were so many trades that I can highlight, but today I want to focus on the one that I put out in our chat room as an alert earlier this morning, and that trade is McDonald's. McDonald's ended up being a 5-to-1 trade today. Now, yesterday, the market began to reverse course. It looked like it was going to rebound. It failed to do so, and several stocks began to fall. And they began to fall dramatically. I noticed that yesterday McDonald's did not have a very steep fall like majority of the other stocks. However, in the pre-market activity, I noticed how the price action, the candlesticks on McDonald's began to close underneath the 200-day moving average, and all of the moving averages were tightly together, thus forming a goal. I also noticed that McDonald's was married. You had your previous day's low and your person's pivot point support closely together, giving us a married setup. Therefore, I put out at 9:38 a.m. that if the market begins to crash and if McDonald's break below this pivot point, that this would be a really good trade. So let's examine it. Here is the married levels here on McDonald's. The market opened at 9:30. First 20 minutes, the market McDonald's fell, but it couldn't break the married levels, which makes sense because when we take a look at the money flow, it's not dual. One money flow is negative, the other is positive. That's not consistent, and because of that, you had somewhat consolidation in McDonald's for a good 4 hours, right? It's holding the pivot point, the married levels before it finally broke. Then around 11:30, 12, you can see the money flow was consistent. You had dual negative money flow. That's what we want to look for. And with that happening, you begin to see that the price broke below the married levels and tried its best to hold the pivot support, but it could not. And it eventually collapsed, giving you a 5-to-1 trade here. And it just completely flushed towards the end of the day. We got several people that made some really good money off of McDonald's. I think John hit a 5-to-1 for the first time. Congratulations, John. I know, Matt, you had a really good trade with McDonald's. And I took McDonald's probably 3 times today. And it worked out very well. Let's take a look at it on the different time frames. Taking a look at McDonald's on our multi-time frame analysis, we can see that McDonald's was underneath the 200-day moving average on the 30-minute chart. And when the market opened, it was pretty much underneath the 10, 20, and the 50 on the 30-minute, but it still had the cloud as support. However, on the 1-hour chart, we have a very thin cloud, and you have a gold setup here on the 1-hour chart with all the moving averages tightly together. And that first 1-hour candle broke beneath all of those levels, meaning it broke beneath the cloud and all of the moving averages, and hasn't looked back since. And this was days ago. This was last Tuesday when this happened, which means that the McDonald's, as far as short-term trading, has been in the downtrend. And to fast forward to today, McDonald's had a decent run-up yesterday, but it couldn't break the 50-day moving average on the hourly chart, which acted as resistance, and it just crashed. On the daily chart, what really caught my attention is the fact that McDonald's had this candle right here. I think this is an upside down hanging man. It's one of those candles, please forgive me. But the fact that this candle could not hold the 100-day moving average and it closed in the lower quartile of the price movement for that day, that was problematic. And when I saw the married setup on McDonald's to the downside, I knew that this 200-day moving average, or 200-day moving average on the daily chart would be a target for it. And that was about a $5 target. And that's exactly what we got today. Even on a weekly chart, McDonald's couldn't close above the 20-day moving average. And that allowed for the 50-day weekly average to be a target for McDonald's if it couldn't hold, if the market couldn't hold. And that's why I felt that McDonald's was going to be a reasonable trade, because if it broke the levels on the Marriott levels on a 5-minute chart, based on this daily price action, you had a really good move or gap or spread back down to the 200-day moving average to get some really decent profits. Plus, the money flow on the daily chart has completely fallen off. And if you were to take a look at the options chain for McDonald's, the 165 calls and the 162.50 calls were all 5-to-1s. If you took the 160 calls and you're very ambitious, that turned out to be a 20-to-1, depending on when you entered it. You can also see that as it relates to puts to call ratios, you have 12,000 puts being purchased in comparison to 9,700 calls, letting you know that the strength, as far as McDonald's is concerned, is to the downside. And you had plenty of opportunities that completely crashed today. You could have made money on a lot of stocks purchasing puts easily. But today, McDonald's was the masterclass trade of the day for it being a 5-to-1 slash 10-to-1 setup, gold married to the downside. Masterclass. Dominate.